Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday to you all. Hope you're doing great out there. Thank you for joining us. I am Brent Thomas, and this is the Paranormal Portal. We have 2 full hours tonight of Paranormal Portal fun ready to go, I guess. It's just all chambered up and loaded. Ooh, forgot to turn on the moon. For those of you that don't know, we are, of course, broadcasting on TFRlive.com, which is also being broadcast on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live as well. And as such, you are perfectly welcome. If you want to chat along with the show, you can go to tfrlive.com/chat. Otherwise, you can watch it streaming live on our YouTube channel right now. We're simulcasting onto our YouTube, and that is youtube.com/paranormalportal. And you can come over there and log in and chat. So there's a few options to get involved. I'd love to say we had phones tonight, but we don't. My Paranormal Portal hotline is down. I don't know what the hell's going on. I didn't get as much. It wasn't working last night either, but for the show, and I meant today to get to work on it, but I got tied up in so many things today, and not literally, of course, but I was as busy as hell, so I didn't have a chance to do it. So unfortunately, we don't have the phones available today. However, if you want to participate in the show, please head to one of those chat rooms and do your best to get my attention. A lot of the times I try to keep an eye on it, but when I'm doing these shows alone on Fridays, it's kind of hard because there's a lot of buttons and things and that I need to be aware of, and so I can't just watch the chat. But if you're on YouTube, do an @Paranormal Portal. And capital letters would be great to really make it stand out. If you're on TFR, I'll do my best to check in over there. But hello to all the people over on TFR. Great to see you. I see Bam's there. Onslow's there. Paradoxical Anomaly is there. Psycho Dave. Good to see you guys. Rio, All One, and Nightshade. So there's quite a few people over there in TFR land. Good to see you guys. And on YouTube, the crowd is coming, but so far, the chatters are Big Rob, BJ Roberts, Chris Jarvis, Ethan Steele, Hidden Existence, that's Daniela. Hi, Daniela. Kirsten Leah, hi, how are you, Kirsten? Renee Cruz, Tom Paul, Cajun's in there. Jordan just stopped in, as did Ethan Steele, so great to see you. And somebody else just came in, Steve Max. So, and they're coming in. The list is growing. I'm sorry. I could sit here for quite a while trying to read out all the names. But anyway, just a quick shout out to all of you guys out there. Thank you so much for being here with us. As such, it does mean the world. But unfortunately, I don't have phones, so we can't do phone calls tonight. I will do what I can to see if I can get them running by tomorrow. But unfortunately, I don't know if I'll have an opportunity, because it looks like the tech support is, just looking at it now as the show was launching, that I couldn't connect. It's Monday through Friday. It's like, well, I think I missed my deadline for that, unfortunately. So I hope you guys understand, but of course, do your best to get my attention in the chats, and I'll try to answer your messages. But welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Paranormal Portal. If you're not familiar with the show, if you're new here, this is where we talk about paranormal stuff. Everything paranormal is on the list. It's on our docket for discussion, but I pulled up a whole lot of different things for us to talk about tonight. I hope it'll be a good show. I mean, that's always my intention. So let's hope I succeed. But let's see. What am I forgetting? Anything? Of course, if you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do is to share the show with other paranormal enthusiasts that you know. If you are involved in any groups or anything online and any paranormal groups, let them know who we are. It's always great to meet new listeners. We've been meeting a ton of you guys lately, and thank you to all you new people that are coming around and getting to know us as well. That's always awesome. So let's see. Tonight, I got a bunch of stuff to go through for you, but I don't know if you know what time it is, but I know what time it is. It's time for the news. All right, folks, welcome to the Paranormal Portal news desk, which is very much like the other desk. In fact, it's identical, but I put a little prettier stuff on the screen for those of you on YouTube. So it kind of has that newsy feel. I don't know if you feel newsy or not, but I can tell you that this is not fake news. Just for the record. Well, let me do it. Thank you very much. So we don't do fake news here. We just do paranormal news. Now, I've got a few articles pulled up here to go over. Some of this is kind of bizarre, and I don't know. This first one, really, when I saw this, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I don't even know what that means, but we're going to read it anyway. This is an article, and it's nothing visual, so I won't post the link over to TFR. Those of you on TFR, since it's not visual, anytime we cover an article that may have pictures or have something of a video element, I will copy the link over to the TFR chat so you guys can see. Because, unfortunately, I understand there's a visual challenge for you guys. So this is an article from animalien.com, and it says scientists have found out how death smells. Now, I can't tell you how many books I've read, and then there's the sayings. The sayings will be like, you could smell the death in the air. I don't know what that means. Usually I think it's something really funky, or maybe the coppery smell of blood or something like that. But apparently death has a smell, folks. So let's see what this says. It says, at the British Science Festival, a group of scientists suggested that death has a smell. After the death of a person, a mysterious smell intensifies and causes a feeling of anxiety for those who feel it. Surprisingly, death has its own smell, which is pleasant for most people. It's pleasant for most people. That's good. In some ways, the aroma is similar to the smell of freshly cut grass. It begins to soar in the air almost immediately after a person leaves this world. The smell of death arises from the release of a substance such as hexanol. Okay. Not sure what hexanol is, but it is secreted before the multiplication of bacteria responsible for the decomposition of the body. It is worth noting that the smell is relevant not only for people, but also for animals in the case of their death. Scientists cannot say why the aroma of freshly cut grass causes an increase of anxiety. According to the results of a study by Arno Wiseman, or Wisman, I'm not sure if it's Wiseman or Wisman, many people, when they catch the smell, are ready to flee at the same moment. The discovery will be useful to criminologists who regularly, with the help of dogs, look for recently dead people. Well, that's interesting. So it is literally a secretion of some kind that happens when our bodies die. I didn't know that. I don't know. That's strange. Huh. Okay, well, I guess we all learned something new. I hope you learned something new. I just learned something new. That death has a smell, folks. And it smells like freshly cut grass, which kind of makes sense because when you freshly cut your grass, it's like like the killing fields. You're hacking off all kinds of grass, so maybe that's the death of the grass. I don't know. That's weird. Weird stuff. So that's the first article tonight. I don't know if that even changes. Does it change? I guess it does. Okay, I'm just looking at things here. Okay. Huh. All right, just testing out some camera stuff. That was weird to me. But anyway, that's the first one, folks. I didn't know that, but I know it now. Or at least that's what they're saying. And who am I to say? The next one we're going to talk about is... this one's pretty weird. And I don't know if this is really paranormal, but it's really weird. And this is coming from... what the hell? Where did everything go? Oh, my tabs just disappeared. Okay. All right. Well, there we go. Okay. Got it back here. And this article is from unexplained-mysteries.com. And it says, dead woman spends years proving she's alive. In the arms of a bureaucracy. Only through the rules of government or some kind of bureaucracy would it be necessary to spend a great deal of time convincing people you're actually alive. But let's see what it says. It says, and this article's from the January 14th, so yesterday, actually. It says, Jean, I'm not sure, Pochane, has spent the last 3 years trying to prove to French authorities that she isn't dead. The 58-year-old's troubles began in 2004 when she was ordered by an industrial tribunal to pay damages to a former member of staff at her company who had been let go after a contract fell through. The ruling ended up never being enforced because it was against the company, not Pouchain herself. Then in 2016, an appeals court made the false assumption that she was dead, something that her disgruntled former employer also later confirmed, despite the fact that she was very much alive. As a result, she was removed from the official records, which invalidated all her bank accounts, her driver's license, and any other documentation that proved her existence. She has since spent 3 years in legal limbo, attempting to set the record straight, but remains officially dead, despite obviously being alive and having this fact confirmed by her doctor. Wow, even the doctor said she's alive and they won't listen. I have no identity papers, no health insurance. I cannot prove to the banks that I am alive. I'm nothing, she said. It's time someone said stop. If I don't fight, nobody's going to fight for me. My husband's grandmother is 102. She's lived through many things, including the war, but she says she's never suffered anything as hard as I've been through. Well, that's really unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. And of course, there is a picture of her. I don't know. I'll copy it over to TFR in case any of you are interested in seeing the zombie lady herself. But she's not actually a zombie. She's alive. There's a little Twitter image that says, in the flesh, Jean Pouchain appears very much alive and well, convincing the French authorities of this has proven another matter. Oh, man. I can't imagine. In some ways, you'd think it'd be beneficial. It's like, oh, okay. No more. There you go, folks. I guess it's if they say you're dead, it's a hell of a thing to get that overturned, apparently. That's another weird thing. Let me push this up. I want to see. Yeah, that's what it should look like. Okay. I got this device that allows me to switch scenes, and it doesn't look like it's activating, but it is activating. Okay. But there you go. I never heard anything like that before. And one more for the news desk. And I think this one's kind of interesting. And I don't pretend to know a whole lot about this one, but it does sound interesting. And this is coming from unexplained-mysteries.com. Let me make sure this one's popping up too. Yep. Okay. And this says, Beast of Leeds prints found in remote woods. It says 2 hunters have been seeking answers after finding unusual footprints in the remote English countryside. Ian John Platt of Yorkshire Outdoor Hunters Group had been geocaching with a friend in a secluded stretch of woodland in Leeds, England, when they came across something strange. An unidentified set of tracks imprinted in the mud near the river Aire, or A-I-R-E, to the southeast of the city. We're out looking for a geocache spot close by, which we located and has been documented by our Yorkshire Outdoor Hunters Group, said Platt's colleague, who wished to remain anonymous. Curiosity led us to the area where we spotted the tracks as we wondered where it led to. The exact location is difficult to access, and we were not strictly allowed there. Oh, okay. My first thoughts when I saw them was, this is something big. I've seen deer and badgers in the same spot, but deer tracks are easy to spot. I'd never seen anything like these before, hence why we asked if anyone could help identify. The pair had intended to return to the spot to take accurate measurements of the prints and set up a trail camera. However, the river level had risen too much and snow had blanketed the area. You can check out the full set of photographs on the Facebook post here. Well, let's do that. I just want to see what those might look like. This is the Leeds place. There's the images. I'm going to get this link and put this in TFR as well, as if anybody's interested in seeing what these tracks look like. Now, I don't know much about tracks at all, so this is something I'm not very, very educated in at all, but I don't know. I don't know how many toe pads something should have or shouldn't have or anything like that. So I don't know if that is unusual in and of itself, but it looks like 4 toe pads, which I think is normal. Could it just be a dog print or something else? I don't know. So I don't know that looking at these tracks for me is doing much, but 1, 2, 3, 4 toe pads, and then the primary bottom pad on the foot. That doesn't look real I don't know. It doesn't look really odd to me, but maybe that is odd. If that's odd or not, I don't know. Somebody's saying a bear in the comments. I don't know. It looks kind of small, though. I don't know how big any of this is. And again, there's no scale for it. So it could be somebody's Pomeranian or something for all I know. There's nothing to give it any kind of scale to see what we're looking at here. But it could be huge. They could be tiny. I don't know. But that's apparently something's coming up. Someone says, for all those saying dog, take a very close look at the print and note that dogs do not have retractable claws. This is a dead giveaway when trying to identify tracks. Any ideas? Well, that's interesting. So let's look. I don't know if these are retractable claws or not. I mean, you don't see any distinct claw marks in the ground, but then again, if it is a dog and they have properly trimmed the nails, they're not going to be really over the top anyway. I don't know. Well, there it is, folks. That's another of these news stories that we're covering here tonight. And I'll take a quick look again to see if there's anything else we should cover before we move on to the rest of our scheduled program. Yeah, I remember that one. This one's kind of interesting. I guess we could read this because I had not read it. I mean, I've looked into it a little bit, but I haven't shared it on the show. But I think this is kind of exciting because it's kind of like moving a little forward into the realm of science fiction. And I think that is exciting. There's some really exciting things technologically, which I think will help to move us, quantum leap forward, if you will. And one of them is, of course, the idea of teleportation. So here's one from unexplainedmysteries.com, and it says, quantum teleportation achieved over 44 kilometers. Scientists have taken one step closer to building a working, super secure, super fast quantum internet. There's still much we don't understand about the mysterious world of quantum mechanics yet. Despite this, scientists are already finding ways to take advantage of this peculiar realm of physics. One of the most promising examples lies in quantum computing and quantum networking, a very much work-in-progress successor to the technology that is currently used in everything from our desktop PCs to the largest internet service providers. The exact mechanics through which it is possible to use quantum physics to process and communicate data over a network are rather complicated. However, in the future, it's believed that quantum networks, or a quantum internet, could provide extremely high speed and ultra secure communication, far in advance of anything available today. Such a future may in fact not be all that far away, as evidenced by a recent experiment at the California Institute of Technology, which succeeded in teleporting quantum information a distance of 44 kilometers over a network, the furthest that has ever been achieved with a high degree of accuracy. We're thrilled by these results, said physicists. Wow, that's a hell of a name. Panagiotis Spentzurus. I don't know. This is a key achievement on the way to building a technology that will redefine how we conduct global communication. While there's still a long way to go, the successful demonstration that quantum networking is possible, even over tens of kilometers, is a major step towards a quantum-dominated future. With this demonstration, we're beginning to lay the foundation for the construction of a Chicago area metropolitan quantum network, said Spentzurus. Okay. I don't even know what nationality that name would be. I've never even seen a name like that. Spentzurus. Okay. Well, I you hear about quantum computing, and I can't say that I really understand what that means, but it sounds exciting because, anytime you're building a future on the possibilities of cutting edge science, it's exciting, but it also makes you a little nervous in a whole different manner, because obviously people are utilizing things like the quantum state for things that may not have been designed for or may not handle exactly as we believe. But there you have it. I don't know. Do with it as you will, folks. I just bring you the news. I don't pretend to understand what the hell I'm reading. But anyway, I think that's the news. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed the news. I always love bringing you the news. It's kind of a fun little side, I don't know, side part of the show. Maybe a side show. Paranormal Portal, I hope you are amazing. I'll be back as soon as possible. Oh, okay. Well, we miss you, Taco. Good to see you. Yeah, take care of yourself, man. I hope everything's good. Life is as good as you make it. Just remember. Although it's kind of crazy in today's world, it's hard to know what the hell's coming up anymore. But maybe that's the key. Don't worry about it, right? All right, we got a lot of things to get to tonight. Some really cool stories. Let me look at the clock and see where we're at. We're at 4 minutes. Oh my God! I guess I could look up one more thing to talk about before that, and this could have been in the news, but I should have extended it one more little segment, but I'll do this now. And this is another little article, and I didn't know much about sea slugs, but I swear I didn't know they could get this big. I don't know what is normal for a sea slug, but here's an article from unexplainedmysteries.com. It says enormous sea slug is the size of a small dog. Now, I don't know if that's huge or if that's normal or if that's small, whatever, but it sounds like it's enormous. Sliding around the bottom of the sea off the coast of California is an aquatic giant like no other. If you've never seen a California sea hare or Aplysia vaxaria, it is as it is officially known, then you're certainly not alone. Despite its large size, this dark-colored underwater mollusk is a rare sight because it's only seldom ventures into shallow waters and then only for purposes of laying its eggs. Sustaining itself on a diet made primarily up of brown algae, the sea hare is named after the ear-like protrusions found growing out of the top of its head. To deter predators, it produces a toxin from the algae it eats and then accumulates on its skin. And here's this clown holding it up like he's going to give it a big kiss. Enjoy your rash. If you're lucky enough to actually come across one of these creatures in a rock pool or along the shoreline, they're not generally dangerous to humans, but it's still best not to pick them up. Oh my God, you guys on TFR have got to see this. It just said it's not a good idea to pick it up. And here you go. Here's Mr. Nature doing a selfie with his sea hare. He's grabbing it like it's an old friend. You can check out wildlife expert Coyote Peterson encountering one in the video below. Well, there you go. I'm gonna save us the viewing pleasure of checking out Coyote here with his toxic sea slug buddy. But yeah, there you go. That's quite a photo op. Wonder how long he had to go to the doctor after that one. But it's a hell of a picture. I'm sure it was worth it. So that's a sea slug. That's a huge sea slug too. I have no context for what that means. Why is it so big? Maybe there's bigger ones down there. Who knows? And this is just the biggest one observed. But yeah, that's pretty creepy looking. Looks like just a big booger or something. I don't know. Oh, there you have it. I guess they eat brown algae, so maybe that's a good thing in the big picture, but I don't know. I'm always learning something new here on the shows, ladies and gentlemen. And now I know that sea slugs should not be hugged or cuddled because that might work out badly for you. Do not cuddle the sea slugs. Who would have known? Who would have guessed it? But there you go. Another quick little story to get us closer to the break. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are also a podcast, so I hope you will check out our podcast. And you can find the Paranormal Portal podcast on all the major players out there. However, I would like to point you out to another podcast where I was a guest recently, and that's From the Shadows podcast. And you can just search for From the Shadows. I was recorded with them last week. Had a great discussion. They're a great bunch of guys. Had a lot of fun talking to them and just comparing notes. They have a very similar podcast in many ways to the Paranormal Portal. So if you like the Paranormal Portal, you're probably going to like From the Shadows. If you love the Paranormal Portal, you're probably going to like From the Shadows. No, I mean, they're great guys. It was a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun talking to them. So if you want to check out that interview with them and get to know their show, look for From the Shadows podcast. It's out now. And it's pretty easy to find. So if you check that out, that's another thing going on. And Of course, after the Paranormal Portal tonight on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live comes Paisley Wild, The Spaces Between. And Paisley is always good at tearing it up and bringing some excellent shows. She's a wonderful person, a great dear friend, personal friend as well. But she puts a lot of heart into her shows, and you can learn a hell of a lot by checking out her show if you're into the esoteric and the unknown, or the alternative things like crystals and body energies and etc. Check out The Spaces Between. But we're going to go to break, so don't go away. We will be right back in just a couple minutes. We got to pay the bills because we're on the network tonight, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
From the dawn of man, we have turned to nature to help attain balance within ourselves. But somewhere,
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You made it through the first break. If you're new to the show, we on Friday and Saturday nights we are broadcasting not only on our YouTube if you're watching there, but we're also broadcasting on TFRlive.com, which is that's where the show started. That's where we cut our teeth, so to speak, and it's the birth of the Paranormal Portal over there. And we still broadcast there on Fridays and Saturdays every week, and as such, that is also being carried on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live on the Truth Frequency radio channels over there. And as such, they have to take breaks every half hour. It's part of the whole deal. So in order to keep everything cohesive, I created those video segments for those of you on YouTube that you could watch along with some music that I put together. And hopefully they're enjoyable little distractions. But otherwise, you'd be listening to commercials. And you know, what can I say? I'm just doing my best to raise the entertainment value. It's not because I'm lazy and don't want to talk for 2 minutes every half hour. It's just that it's part of the deal. So I hope you understand, because generally I get a question about that every once in a while. So I try to fill in the blanks, so to speak, so that there's no question about what the hell is going on here. So anyway, this is the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are in the second half hour now. The night is cruising by, but hope you're having a good time so far. And just know it's just going to keep getting better. Especially if you're drinking. I'm just saying, it might help. It might help. I don't know. It's worth a shot. Other than that, I don't know. But we'll just keep grinding away here. I got a lot more paranormal on deck for you, so I hope you're ready to be paranormaled. Where the hell was it? Where was it? That's the big question in my life. Where was it? I got to close some of these things. I got crap open I don't even need. There we go. Let's get over here. I have a couple of cool things I want to go through with. Oh, whoops. I did that one twice. Okay, there we go. So towards the end of the show, we're gonna show you a little video clip of something I happened onto that I found absolutely fascinating. And you can think about this what you will, but we'll get into that in the last half hour. But there's a video segment we'll be dealing with along with an article that I thought was absolutely fascinating. And maybe there's something to it. I think, well, I'm not going to get into it too much now, but I'm excited to show you guys because I think it's really fascinating. And it might be a little glimpse into some future technologies that might help to see the unseen, so to speak. But we'll get into that in a bit. But right now, I often on the show feature articles by a gentleman by the name of Brent Swancer. If you're not familiar with him, he is by far the most prolific paranormal journalist out there, in my opinion. Does a fantastic job, and he writes articles for mysteriousuniverse.org. He's a friend of mine. I really like the guy. I've been a fan of his work for years, and I've featured his work on the show for years. I've gotten to know him now on social media, and just thrilled to make that connection because, looking at thousands and thousands of articles through the years, I got to the point, even if I didn't, like if Don was reading something, I'm like, hey, was that Brent Swancer? He'd be like, yeah, that was Brent Swancer. I mean, you can just tell by the quality of his work and the thoroughness and of his work that it's just, he stands alone in my opinion. But there are other wonderful writers out there about the paranormal, but I've always been a fan of his. So we're going to cover an article right now from mysteriousuniverse.org featuring the work of Brent Swancer, and this is Truly Bizarre Encounters with Insectoid Humans. Now, insectoid humans often, the one thing about the paranormal is there's no limit on the possibilities. I mean, there's no limit on the claims that will come in and what is actual and what is fantastical. And the lines get really blurry because, whatever the paranormal is, it seems to include an entire huge catalogs of beings and things that we can hardly imagine. When you hear insectoid, I often think of things like the mantis aliens that are reported from UFOs, these insect-like beings that apparently hail from somewhere else, some other part of the cosmos, but are here and are generally pretty widely feared, is my understanding of it. Like, they're not considered to be the good kind to run into. Now, there's also many claims in the paranormal of large insects, like huge insects that are like man size. And I think of like the movie Mimic. If any of you guys have seen the movie Mimic, and if you haven't seen it, I would check it out because it's really creepy. It's a really creepy show, but in a nutshell, what it is this type of insect being that exists in the world, and it's some kind of weird offshoot of the natural world, but they developed in such a way as they look like us. Like they look like, like they'd be in subways and there'd be these weird, creepy guys that kind of stand by themselves in trench coats and a hat. And if you look at nature, mimicking is a real common thing. I'm kind of spiderwebbing here, but you look at, there's flies buzzing around that look just like a bee. And there's butterflies that have like faces on their wings. And it just almost denotes an intelligence or some weird adjustment that was made to create safety for the creature, or to create something of a distraction, so that whatever it is that's stalking them doesn't want to eat them. And so these creatures look like people in like the subways and stuff. And then when they get their opportunity, they take a person, and obviously nothing good happens at that point. But that's a movie called Mimic, I think is what it's called. And I was blown away by that. But there are claims of stuff out there like that. So let's see what this article is. It says, truly bizarre encounters with insectoid humans. There's perhaps no stranger cases among cryptid and alien reports than what have been described as humanoid insect creatures. I've covered this topic before, but there are many other accounts that seem to really go beyond the bizarre to enter realms that are in no way easy to classify or categorize at all. Here we have reports of encounters with what can only be described as walking giant bugs, and they are every bit as completely off the wall as you might imagine. One place where one might expect to see something odd and beyond the explainable world would be in rural or wilderness areas, but nothing likely could prepare some witnesses for the surreal and outlandish experience of seeing an insectoid humanoid in the wilds. This is exactly what allegedly happened to a witness called Ricky, who called in his experience on the show Coast to Coast AM on September 27th of 2016. That'd be creepy. He says that at the time he had been on what was supposed to be a fun family camping trip at the Sequoia National Forest located in the southern Nevada mountains of California. And known for its towering ancient giant sequoia trees, with its majestic trees lending an otherworldly ambience, the place already looks like something from a dream world. But it would get utterly bizarre one evening after everyone had gone to bed, and the witness stayed up gazing upon the flickering embers of the bonfire they had made, he explains. At about 9 o'clock, everyone decides to go to sleep, and my friend and I were left staring at the bonfire. I decided it was a good time to listen to music, so I went to my sister's 4Runner and was opening up the back to grab my iPod, and as I opened the back door, I heard something come out of the tree. It didn't come out of the tree. It was almost like it was holding on and fell. And I heard this huge thump. I could feel it. And as I had a flashlight on me, I looked over at the tree that I heard it fall from, and I swear on my life, and I swear to God, honest to God, I saw a 6 to 7 foot praying mantis. And as I laid eyes on it, I completely lost breath, and I was completely taken back. It took a step back, and it became completely invisible. I couldn't believe what I saw. I slammed the door, ran back to the campfire. I alerted my friend. I woke up everyone, and no one would believe me. I was really upset because I knew what I'd seen. So that happened, and my friend didn't believe me. He was laughing at me, and then all of a sudden, I could hear all these things surrounding us. And finally, when I brought it to my friend's attention, he kind of put his ear to it and heard it too. Finally, I was patrolling the campground with my flashlight, and I could just hear these things surrounding us, and I heard this clicking sound. It was like, well, he makes a clicking sound. It was really strange. I was so scared. That's horrible. That is just horrible. Now, what was this creature, and how can we reconcile it with anything known to exist in those woods? From researcher Albert Rosales, we have another account of a camping encounter, and this time from the country of Poland. The witness purportedly had been camping out in the remote wilds of Wielkopolska province, Poland, and had her experience as she was walking through a meadow on her way back to the camping site from a hike. As she approached her tent, her attention was drawn to an odd figure squatting down next to a nearby lake. Not knowing what exactly she was looking at, and startled that anyone else would be out there in the isolated place, she approached until she was only 8 meters away. As she did, realizing that this was not a human being. She would describe it as looking like a humanoid insect estimated to be around 5 feet tall, with extremely long, thin limbs, gray or beige in color, and possessing oversized black eyes that were very much like those of an insect, and thin, fragile-looking wings. The witness also expresses that the creature seemed to be surprised that it had been discovered, and would say, "It gazed at me, and I knew that it did not know what it would do. Our encounter had no meaning or aim. It appears to have been a total surprise for both of us." It's unclear what happened after this, but it is certainly not something that anyone wants to run into out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. Another such bonkers report comes to us from the site Phantoms and Monsters, from a witness who says that he had multiple encounters with some sort of bizarre insectoid, and was just a boy at the time at his first. He claims that he lived with his family in a remote mountain area of the wilderness of Ontario, Canada, when one day he looked out the window to see something that would leave an indelible impression on his young mind, and which he can clearly remember to this day. He says of what happened, "We had the windows open in the house, as air conditioners were not common in 1968, and it was very hot that night. I shared a room with my brother and sister, and I woke up during the night and looked out the window into the backyard, and in front of a bush about 8 feet away was a small, thin creature with a shiny black skin. It looked like a small girl, but at the same time it kind of looked like an insect. It was crouched on its legs and was leaning forward with one hand on the ground and was looking at me. It had what looked like thin antennas or like needles sticking out from each side of its head, and one in the top. That's all I remember. And when I told my mom, she said it was just a dream." He would have 2 more sightings of the same creature over the years, each time being told that it was just a dream. But he isn't so sure. Was this all in his head, or was there something more to it? The witness himself goes on to say that he feels it might have been an alien presence, or this would certainly fit into numerous reports that seem to definitely be linked to the UFO phenomena. One report of this kind compiled by Albert Rosales comes from the files of the Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON, and describes a very weird creature that purportedly occurred in April of 2016 in the area of Zygi, Cyprus. The witness explains that she had been hanging out with friends in her yard when they saw a UFO, followed by what they assumed to be its occupant, which was a decidedly insectoid appearance. She says, "My 2 friends and I had just finished our meal and were out in the garden talking and drinking, but not alcohol. One of my friends had gone to the kitchen to refill their glass, whilst me and my other friend remained outside. After a moment of silence, my friend pointed out an unusually bright star moving across the sky. Assuming it may have been a comet or something, and after a brief moment, I looked up at it again to realize that it was stationary around 75 to 100 feet above the tree line. I sat there staring at this thing just in complete shock. Every 15 seconds or so, I would lower its altitude until it was only a couple of feet from the treetops. The weirdest part about this is that absolutely no noise had been emitted thus far. I tried to get out of my chair to hurry inside, but I felt an overwhelming feeling of paralysis. As did my friend, and I turned to her and asked her what was going on, but she looked frozen in fear. After what felt like hours, something appeared from around the trees underneath the triangular craft. It was a humanoid figure with a head similar to that of an ant. Its skin like a crocodile, and it had extremely small eyes in proportion to its head and long, thin appendages. It walked right up to the fence before sharply turning and sprinting into the darkness of the trees. After a brief moment of complete fear, dread, and anxiousness, the craft moved in a linear path towards the west, before becoming no longer visible. During this time, my friend, who had gone to refill her glass, watched the entire event through the window. She recalls, although neither me or my friend do, that the creature had some sort of device in its hand and that it held it up briefly before its disappearance. Other reports are really hard to classify as one thing or the other and serve to be just plain odd. From an episode of Coast to Coast AM comes a report on August 16th, 2017 from a caller in a small town called Harwood Heights, just outside of Chicago, Illinois. He says that one evening he came home from work at around 1:30 a.m., looked out the window to see something outlandish looking back at him from the darkness. He says of this incident, "I looked out the window to across the street and I saw a crypto, if you will, a Mothman type insectoid, small body, unusually large head, normal, no red eyes, and it kept staring. I went to make tea, fed the cats, came back, rubbed my eyes to see if I was tired and just seeing things, and sure enough, it was there. One important thing, there is no foreboding fear. None whatsoever. That I found interesting. I was shocked, as many people that have seen similar things. I went several times. I would say about 4 or 5 times, just peering outside, looking at the window, and just stood there. I live in a small town near Chicago, and I figured police would do their rounds or someone would see it. You could hear a pin drop. It's a very small community. Sure enough, no one was around. It didn't faze me to take a picture. I can't imagine that. I did have a smartphone at the time, right? But overall, no fear, and absolutely, you're just there in the shock because you just can't believe what you're seeing. You listen to accounts, but you never think you will be in that situation. I went back several times. I was listening to your show that night, peering out every now and then, and it just kept standing there. Maybe I was out there listening to the Coast to Coast as well. In the morning, I went to see any trace of anything, and it was gone. So, yeah, above all, I would say the strangest thing would be I was not afraid at all. And it shocks me to even say that now, thinking back over the several months and years I talked to friends. They have an interest in it. I kept thinking it was crouching like a runner would be, so it could have been taller, as many people claim to it, being 6 or 7 feet. It was almost as if definitely the body was much smaller, and the head came to a point, almost as if, the old cartoons from Mad Magazine, Spy versus Spy, with the nose, if you will, comes into like a parrot or a bird beak, and then there's no beak. But it is very kind of pointed, protruding face, if you will. But again, there were no eyes, and there were no facial features. But again, in that humanoid design, that's where the face would be, of course. So, yeah, but the head was much bigger than the body. I don't know. I'm trying to conceptualize in my head what I'm reading and what that looks like. But, I don't know, spy versus spy is almost like those plague doctor masks. So I don't know. The Chicago area has several other strange insectoid reports like this that are really hard to classify. One comes from, again, from the files of Albert Rosales and describes the experience of a witness who had just been sleeping on the sofa at a friend's house in Chicago, Illinois, when he was suddenly roused from his slumber by a crushing sensation of terror. Made even worse when he discovered that he was unable to move. When the paralyzed man glanced around the room in terror, he claims that he saw by the doorway a 7-foot-tall humanoid entity that looked like a large praying mantis that was wearing something resembling a black and purple cloak. This horrifying creature apparently then approached the man and reached out to touch his shoulder with a skeletal hand and long, thin fingers, after which the witness lost consciousness. When he awoke, the creature was gone. Another report from Chicago comes from Phantoms and Monsters and describes some sort of flying insectoid human at Chicago's Willis Tower. The witness supposedly outside having a cigarette when he looked up to see a winged humanoid figure ominously crouched up on the tower as if perched there like a gargoyle. Then the creature allegedly moved, unfurled its wings, and leapt off the building to go soaring into the sky. It was then that the witness realized that the creature was very insect-like in form, and Lon Strickler says of the report, the witness states that the being's outstretched wings were not very large, maybe 6 to 8 from tip to tip, but were very jagged and insect-like, shaped similar to a moth. The being was also dark green in color and had a body form like that of a mantis. The legs seemed to be human-like and extended beyond the body while flying. He called it a human insect and bird mix that seemed to mutate while in flight. Joining the ranks of all this bizarreness is an encounter originally published in October 8th, 2017 edition of The Strange magazine that supposedly occurred back in 1948 at the shipbuilding port in Bremerton in the U.S. state of Washington. One day, a young woman named Virginia Staples was just going about her usual daily household chores, carrying a load of laundry down to the washing machines in the basement of her rundown apartment building. And it was a mindless chore that she had done countless times before, but there would have been no reason for this time to be any different, but it was to lead to a shocking experience indeed. And it goes on to say the dim basement was described as enormous. Its voluminous floor constantly covered with a sheen of water that leaked from the walls and is rumored to come from passageways leading to the nearby sea, but although it had a rather creepy, foreboding atmosphere, Virginia was used to working in this dark, dank place, yet on this day, something was not quite right. As she felt an undefinable sense of unease and dread, as if she were being watched from the ample shadows, clinging to everything in there. She tried to cast the odd feeling out of her head, chalking it up to just nerves, but it would not abate. Indeed, becoming stronger the longer she lingered there, gradually to sheer terror for no discernible reason. She would say of what happened next, it was such a creepy feeling. I finally turned around and looked towards the back of the basement and froze. I was so scared I can still feel it. I couldn't move. In one of the huge holes in the basement there stood this thing. It was horrible. I stand about 5 feet tall, and this creature was as tall as I was. It had bright orange-colored body and little spidery thin legs and antennae on top of its head that kept moving back and in and out. That thing started towards me. I backed out of the basement and got to the apartment and packed up all my things and moved. I was so scared, I moved over to Seattle to my cousins. Really, no one would really believe this, but as God is my witness, it really happened. She would say that it looked to her almost like a humanoid shrimp, and that for years afterwards she said that she had potent chronic nightmares. The interesting part of this tale, other than the sheer outlandishness of the entity described, is that this was in the basement of an apartment complex, and not even a remote one out of the one out in the boondocks. At the time, Bremerton was a bustling naval port city, home to about 80,000 people, so it makes no sense at all that there should be this thing. Even if there were passageways to the sea, where did it come from, and why didn't anyone else see it? The strange abomination was only seen this one time, and we're left to wonder just what it could have possibly been, or whether it ever really happened at all. All right, folks, that's the end of this article. We'll come back and talk a little bit about it in just a few minutes, but don't go away. One more break to go, and we'll be back for the second hour, so I'll be right back.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed. Yeah.
those she's with, they're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force, it is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Yes, they can. They can go on for years and years and years. And hello to the new people checking out the show. Great to see you guys. Thank you so much for coming in. At least new to me. And that doesn't mean you're actually new. It just means I've never seen you before, which in and of itself is not unusual because oftentimes I don't get a lot of chance to look at the chat, but I hope I haven't been missing any comments or anything. If I have, I do apologize, but I'm kind of busy here. That's how I do it, right? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. I'm just doing the work. I'm just doing the heavy lifting here, folks. So I hope you're having a good time all the same. Thank you. Thank you very much. But we're in hour number 2 now. We made it to the second hour, so I hope you guys are feeling entertained. If I'm doing my job, you are. And I do apologize we don't have the phones. I wish we did, but they're just not working tonight. I use a online phone system, and for some reason, it's been really flaky lately, and I don't know what the hell's going on. Maybe it's just outdated. I don't know. That's what you get when you get them on sale. It could be. I don't know. But anyway, we are crawling through the night. It's Friday night. We're in the second hour. What could go wrong? But I just want to remind everybody, if you're listening on TFR, iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live to stick around because after the Paranormal Portal, after our second hour, of course, comes Paisley Wild, the spaces between. And then following her comes World Bigfoot Radio with the Dukes. So lots coming up here on the network if you're tuned in there. For Paisley's show, if you are looking at YouTube, you can find her show following the Paranormal Portal by going to youtube.com/the spaces between. So all kinds of opportunities to stay entertained if you choose. Brent, you need to get your new phone software. Yeah, I know. You know, the thing is that it's the same platform that TFR uses, and that's why I use it, is because I'm familiar with it. It's very familiar to me. But just in the last month or so, every once in a while, it's just been flaky. And I'm not sure why, if I'm missing something or whatever. But I don't know. We do our best to give you guys lots of ways to be a part of the show. But in the meantime, since I don't have phones, if you do want to make a comment or something, do your best to, if you're in the YouTube, do @Paranormal Portal first, and it'll give me that orange box with Paranormal Portal in the middle, and then your comment after that. I'll do my best to see them, and I apologize if I've been missing any, but it's tough when I've got to read through these articles as we're going through the night. But we just finished that article by Brent Swanser, which was a fantastic article, and I love those because I think the whole insectoid thing is kind of bizarre, kind of cool, kind of weird. I don't know what the hell they are. That's, in so many things in the paranormal, it's hard to know what they are. Like with a ghost, you assume, hey, it's somebody that was alive or some other spiritual being. With a normal cryptid, it's like, yeah, those are things that are out there we really don't understand, and somehow they've avoided us for the most part, but they still show up once in a while. But you get to the thing like the insects, the insectoids or whatever, and yeah, they could be extraterrestrial, but what if they're not? There's stories. I think it was the Hopi that have that legend of the ant people that came from the earth and helped them to survive the deluge. And that's some kind of insect-like people that for some reason came up and said, hey, we're going to keep you safe, and taught them how, brought them into the earth or whatever to keep them safe throughout the whole flood that apparently occurred, or something to that effect. But there's all kinds of weird stories about that stuff, and who knows what to make of any of it, I guess. But it's really bizarre, really creepy. Of course, when I think of insects, I of course think of insects that we're familiar with. They seem to be these little forces of nature, and luckily they're little. But I think if you think of like a praying mantis, they're just these little eating machines. That's what they do. They'll eat their own. They don't care. They just see something and they go, yeah, I can eat that, and they eat it. And so the prospect of running into a human-sized insect, I think is absolutely terrifying, because what if they're working on the same kind of function? It's like, yeah, I can eat that. And it's like, me? Well, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't eat that. You shouldn't eat me. I'm not food. I don't want to be food. So I think that's the creepy part. Are they reasoning? Are they intelligent? Could they communicate? And would they communicate, or would they think that I'm just food? And that's the scary part. Now that one story of that woman in the basement seeing that thing, that big orange or yellow shrimp person, and it started to walk towards her. It's like, yeah, hell yeah, you get out of there. You don't wave and wait for it to come closer. You go, because what happens when it gets closer? Is that when the screaming and the hurting starts, or is this going to be a beautiful moment of touching a brand new life? I'm probably betting it's the first one, but I don't know. But that's the creepy part. That's me. That's my own psychological hang-ups of stories like that. There are even small mantids that kill and eat rodents. Yeah, I know. There's those mantis. I was one that really creeped me out is there's these praying mantis that will like hang out on hummingbird feeders, and they'll eat hummingbirds. It's like, hummingbirds are these adorable little creatures. They're just, they're beautiful little things. And to think that a bug is coming up and just making that a meal, I don't know. That's horrible. I think that's just horrible. So I don't know. I have trouble with that. And bird eating spiders and stuff like that. It's like, oh no. And God, in Australia, everything will eat everything else. So you never know what's going on down there. So yeah, I don't know. The whole insect thing, it just doesn't seem like it would be functioning on the same level as us. I guess and maybe that's just a bias, uneducated bias. Maybe they're wonderfully intelligent and benevolent beings, but I don't know. I'd be running. I'd just be turning nope. I'd be noping out. That's just me, but I'm just being honest. Let me get a drink here. Refreshing water. No, this is not sponsored by water, but I like it anyway. All right, so let's get on to the next one. That's my 2 cents about that article. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed that one. I got another article from Brent Swanser here, and this is for any of you that are into the Bigfoot world or interested in Bigfoot. This should be a good one, because I think any of us that have researched Bigfoot to any degree, you've run into talks or mention of these strange Bigfoot, and maybe they're just albino, I don't know, but they're white. And there's one famous one apparently in Pennsylvania, or there was. I don't know if it's still around or what happens, but being white, you'd think it would kind of stick out, and seems to have stuck out pretty profoundly to those that have encountered it. But this is another article by Brent Swanser. This is on mysteriousuniverse.org again, dated December 11th of 2019. And it has to do with strange encounters with white Bigfoot. So let's get into this. Remember, the last half hour, we're going to get into a really cool video that I think might be kind of exciting and fun. So we'll get into that in the last half hour. So don't go away. There's good stuff yet to come. The rock star of cryptids is by far none other than the legendary Bigfoot, also called the Sasquatch. These hairy, massive, man-like beasts have been sighted all over the U.S. and indeed in one form or other all around the world. They've remained a compelling mystery that continues to elude us. By far the most common description of these creatures is that of a hulking brute of a thing, standing upwards of 8 to 10 feet tall and covered with shaggy brown hair or fur, And this is perhaps the image most firmly etched into the public consciousness of these beasts. Yet there are reports out there intermingled with these that seem to point to these monsters exhibiting a good amount of variety. There have been reported black Bigfoot, reddish Bigfoot, and gray as well, but perhaps the rarest of all of those are accounts that describe the Bigfoot that are a stark white in coloration. This latter is a special interest here, very large and very rare rather, and very odd. And here we'll look at a selection of accounts of the elusive white Bigfoot. Probably the most well-known are a series of sightings concerned with what appears to have been an albino Bigfoot began back in 1970 in the wilds of the U.S. state of Pennsylvania, most referred to as simply the Pennsylvania white Bigfoot. The creature of creatures were first seen by a witness named Annette B., who saw one in the forest and described it as being about 7 feet tall, with matted, dirty white hair all over it. She would say of the creature, its eyes were dark and spaced far apart. Its white hair covered the lower half of its face. There was a pinkish skin around the eyes and the forehead, and it looked like its hair was a little longer on its head and hanging over its forehead, like bangs. Whatever it was stayed dormant for a while until 1973, when 2 young girls spotted an 8-foot-tall beast with shaggy white fur and glowing red eyes in Beaver County. This report is particularly odd and surreal, as the creature was described as holding some sort of glowing orb in its massive hand. When the frightened girls told their father about it, he allegedly went out looking for it but could find no trace. Even more bizarrely, a pair of white Bigfoot-like creatures would be seen later that same year in Uniontown, this time in conjunction with a UFO hovering over a pasture they were in. A local woman claimed to have shot at the creature with a shotgun, but that it had no effect. Oh, that's nice. In 2008, there were reports of the white Bigfoot rummaging about the rural area of Carbondale, Pennsylvania, and there were numerous other reports of seeing the creature in the same area around this time. And at around this time, there were also some reports of what appeared to be a smaller juvenile version of the creature as well. The beast was in particular said to roam about an old abandoned mine reclamation site in the vicinity, and these sightings would continue until as recently as 2010, when a local man took some much discussed footage of the thing in his backyard. The creature in question has been widely criticized as being a hoax, with researcher Scott Carpenter saying of it, "In my opinion, this is a hoax. Some thought went into this to make it look realistic and believable. The person put on white makeup and then put on some sort of white jacket. On the head, a white mesh material was used that fit very tight. Using a flashlight and a video camera was the perfect way to cover any flaws, and only showing the subject from the waist up. Since no mask was used, facial expressions and reaction to the light would look very natural. Jerking the flashlight also made the subject appear like it moved very fast. Regardless, the footage has managed to be much discussed, and you can see it here. Let's see if we can. And if we can, I'll send a link over to TFR as well. I think I know the footage they're talking about. Oh, this is from Sasquatch Central.
Click on Bigfoot's upper lip.
Oh, no. Let's not do that. Let's just get a move on here and just get to the footage in question. Okay, here's the footage. Let me just pause this. I'm going to put the link over in TFR for those people over there, because we got to keep both audiences cooking. For any of you guys over in TFR that want to check out this footage, there you go. But we'll just continue looking through it. And while this is footage I am familiar with, I've seen it a number of times. And basically it's the face in like a fork of a tree, and then it just jerks away. I don't know how Scott Carpenter is so certain that it's a hoax. I don't know how he came to that criteria about what was used and how it was used. Now, the flashlight is incredibly small in the whole field of things. Like, there's this big, the picture, if you're not watching it, is just this entire screen of black with just this little point of light that is the flashlight beam. And there isn't a whole lot to go on, but I do know that Thinker Thunkers broke this down and did a pretty good job, I thought. And he does address the fact that it does squint. Like the eyes do squint with the introduction of the light. So it's not just a mask. That there is, it's showing a biological factor there. Like it's not just a molded plastic. There is some normal reaction that you would expect. But being that it's just a couple seconds, it's really not enough to really go on. But I want to just try to get to the frame where it shows it on the screen. Wait, let's see. Let me just go back. Oh, God. Let me do this. Hold on. I'm going to go frame by frame here and see if we can get to the point where the face is on the screen. And you can do that on YouTube if you're not really familiar with this. You can go frame by frame in YouTube. Let me put it on full screen here. But by hitting the period or the comma, you can go either forwards or backwards. And I'm just using the period now to move forward frame by frame until we get to it. There it is on screen. The beam hits it. Now there's the squinting that happens as it looks down. Now, that really is a pretty convincing, if that's a makeup job, that's pretty convincing, I gotta say. Now, I don't know how big it is, but there is an absence of what would normally be considered a neck. The head isn't really conical shaped. It's really more rounded on the top, so that's kind of interesting as well. Usually we expect to see the conical shape, but it's more recognizable on the front view than it is from the profile. It really doesn't appear to go to a point except when it's in looking straight at you, more so than when it's on its profile heading away off to the side. But I just want to see what is actually captured. It does kind of seem to end at the shoulders, though, the coloration. Like it just disappears into blackness at that point. And I find that a little suspect. Like it could, why does the white just stop at the shoulders as it's diving down? Why isn't there more white below? So maybe there is something to this being a hoax. I don't know what it's in front of, though, either. I don't know what this scenery looks like. But the flashlight does jerk down, but never is there more visible than the head and the upper part of the shoulders. Maybe a little more there down what may be the bottom of the arm here into the chest, maybe. But it just kind of stops. So I find that a little curious that nothing more is visible. So maybe there is truth to that. Maybe that is kind of hoaxy and fake, but I don't know. There's at least an argument for it being real. I don't think that any conclusions can be made for sure, but I'm not begrudging Scott Carpenter the ability to say, no, I don't think it's real. So what is this thing? Was it an albino Bigfoot, a hoax, or something else? What was the white Bigfoot of Pennsylvania? Other states have their own accounts of what seemed to be white Bigfoot as well. One account comes from the state of West Virginia and was given by a woman known as Melissa, who says at the time that she had been driving down an isolated country road with her husband one evening. The night was dark and quiet, just the shadows of the trees and flickering lines floating past outside. But then out of the night ahead, there bloomed the form of something crouching on the road. Brought out of the dark by the approaching headlights, she says of her bizarre encounter, about 50 yards ahead, there was something in the road. It was on all fours, and it was snow white. It was bigger than a dog, way bigger. And as we got closer, it turned and looked our way. Its mouth opened, and it stood up on two legs and began running across the road and up through the woods. I never said a thing. All I could do was sit there, stunned. A few minutes later, Joe asked if I had seen what he had seen. Unable to answer him, I began to cry. Another West Virginia report comes from an area called Baker's Ridge and involves a college student who was watching a house for a family out on vacation. The atmosphere would have been quite spooky already, as the house was situated in the middle of nowhere in the woods, surrounded by trees in the day, an impenetrable blackness at night, and a sense of foreboding at all hours, but it would get even scarier still. One evening, among the cacophony of the forest night outside, she heard some loud banging sounds, which sounded like someone or something rummaging around on the back porch. Thinking it was some animal like a raccoon, she went to shoo it off, but peering through the window revealed two glowing red eyes peering right back, framed within a dark shape around 5 feet in height. The mystery animal then ran at the house on 2 legs and began banging on the windows and walls as it let forth a furious howl. As it loomed past the thin pane of glass separating them, the witness could see that it was covered in long, scraggly white hair and had remarkable human-like hands. After some time of lurking right outside the window, the thing slinked off into the night, and shortly after, she could hear it enthusiastically ransacking the garbage pails a bit further from the house before disappearing. When she inspected the area under the perceived safety of daylight, she discovered that whatever it was had left behind footprints, muddy, human-like handprints streaked all over the windows, and garbage and other miscellaneous objects strewn about all over the place, with the garbage cans themselves crushed and twisted in great force. In 2005, there was an interesting story on the site Sasquatch Chronicles. The witness is a woman in Lonedale, Missouri, who says that she had been visiting her parents along with her 4-year-old son at the time. On this day, she was sitting out on the porch of the rural property along with her son and her parents' dog in the mid-afternoon in broad daylight. As she leisurely looked over the quaint scenery, she says she noticed what appeared to be a large man making his way through the field nearby, which began to draw nearer to the trailer where they had been staying. The dog was apparently not happy with this, as it began to bark uncontrollably, and the woman was unsettled enough that she took her son inside, but she could see at this point that whatever it was not human. And she says of what happened next, the thing, for lack of a known word to call it what it was, that I saw, was walking on 2 legs, aimlessly, not in a hurry, and I could not find a reason as to why it came into the yard, as it was just looking around aimlessly and leisurely walking. There was a wooden fence, mostly for decoration and only about 20 feet long. The thing walked next to. My mother had some decorations, can't remember what, hanging on the fence, and that thing seemed to look at. The dog barking did not startle the creature, it just kept walking. I was absolutely astounded by what I was seeing. If not for the fact that the dog was seeing it too, I would have wondered if my eyes or brain was playing tricks on me. I decided to be brave and opened the screen door just enough to stick my head outside, and that's when the thing looked at me, met my gaze. I just stood there, half afraid of its reaction and its next move, but more curious than anything. My heart was racing. I held my son up to look at it also, still indoors. After it looked at me, yet showed no fear, I had more time to study it, and I was racking my brain to identify what it was that I was seeing. Here's the best description I can give. It was between 4 and 6 feet tall, walking on 2 legs, covered from head to toe in very long white hair. Its face was mostly covered in white hair as well, except for its eyes and maybe its mouth. It did not have the snout like a dog. Its shape and build was that of a human's. I even compared it to a bear in my head, but there were not enough similarities. This thing was not very animalistic in behavior, the way it walked, looked at me, and the more typical of human behaviors. Yet the way it wandered and seemed oblivious to the man-made things around it, cars, the trailer, even the fence, was more like the characteristics of an animal. I did not get the feeling that it was aggressive or wanting to cause harm, yet because of the size and animalistic nature of it, I knew that it was strong and could hurt me, my son, or the dog. It began to walk around the side of the garage, out of sight, but closer toward the end of the trailer that had the bedroom my mom was napping in. I ran down the bedroom and began frantically looking out the windows, searching to see where it had gone. I woke my mom up and in my tizzy and quickly told her what I had seen, and I wanted her to look. She was still half asleep and slow to process what I was saying. I did not see where it went from there. I could not locate it through the windows, and I was much too afraid to go outside and look. From the state of Alabama, we have a report from the Alabama Bigfoot Society. Oh, we're not going to have enough time for this. We'll finish it up when we come back because we are literally down to about 30 seconds. So we'll pick up the report from Alabama on the way back in, folks, and then we'll get a look at that video. But yeah, the white Bigfoot, they're a strange anomaly. Is it just albinism? Just an albino of a natural animal or being or whatever the hell they are? It's hard to say. But the mystery deepens, folks. There's a lot more to unpack here on the Paranormal Portal, so don't go away. We're going to go to our last break in just a few seconds here, so stay tuned, get a drink, and I'll meet you back here as soon as the bell rings. But there's the bell. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away for more of the Paranormal Portal. ladies and gentlemen, we are in the last half-hour stretch of the Paranormal Portal. And as such, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. If you're not already subscribed, if you're looking on YouTube, please get subscribed. Hit the likes. Let other people know what you're seeing here on the Paranormal Portal, how much you're loving it. Share these to your social media streams. And for those of you listening on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, we love you guys. Thank you all for being a part of the Paranormal Portal experience. All right, that's my little quick intro. Hope you guys are having a good time. Thank you all for being here with me. It's, of course, last half hour. It goes really fast. That's one thing about the show. You just blink and it's almost over. And that includes me. I'm reading stuff and I look up and it's like, oh, geez, where did the time go? Well, it went into the portal. This is a time anomaly, as it were. And I can't understand what's happening, but it's been happening for a long time. All right, so we've been covering this article by Brent Swancer having to do with encounters with the white Bigfoot. And, of course, I don't think it's anything different than a Bigfoot, but it's different colored and seems to have all the problems that every other albino creature has in that they stick out like a sore thumb. It's hard to ignore something like that. It's a blazing white thing in a sea of natural surroundings. The only white in nature is either a flower or snow. In the winter, I'm sure they're wonderfully equipped and adept at doing whatever they need to do. But in the warmer months, it must be a real challenge. Although, do they stay cooler than their darker brethren? Maybe because they're reflecting light, not absorbing as much. You never know. Might be cooler in that coat. But we are now moving into a story from this article that Brent Swancer is covering from the state of Alabama. So let's see what's going on here. It says, from the state of Alabama, we have a report from the Alabama Bigfoot Society, which allegedly occurred in 2013 in the area of Blount County in central northern Alabama. The account was given by the son of a woman who had just purchased a new home in the wooded portion of the area, then moved in with her family. One day, the family was out cleaning and doing yard work when the woman's son came running up to say that there was a giant creature in a ditch out back. The report goes on to say, at first, he thought it was a large man with a white hood over his head, and it severely frightened the young boy. They all went around the house to see if it was someone who intended to do harm, but the creature was well gone by now. Her son says the creature was in a ditch, and that he and the thing caught each other's attention at about the same time. They made eye contact for a few moments, but he says they looked at each other eye to eye, but that it made no sound. Nor did it make any threatening move towards him. It simply walked slowly off into the dense forest. As it walked away, he could tell it was covered entirely with long, solid white hair. The long hair fell over its face, and he could make out no other features than its eyes. He told them where the creature stood and how far up its head was according to the bushes and trees, and they estimated to be about 9 feet tall. So that was a big one. This was the only time he has ever seen this albino Sasquatch. Another report from 2013 comes from Mahoning County in the state of Ohio. Why not? Everything else is in Ohio. My God, Ohio. You guys you've got it all. And was reported on Cryptozoology News. The witness claims that he was getting his hunting gear out of his truck when he spotted a 4-foot-tall ape-like creature with striking white hair, which he says ran away as he tried to track it with the scope of its hunting rifle. Yeah, I imagine it saw that rifle and went, nope. He says there was this white fuzzy thing standing on 2 legs. It was looking at me, and it fled. I couldn't wrap my head around what the hell I just saw. My hands kept shaking and didn't feel right putting up a rifle at something I didn't understand. I would get within 40 yards or so, and it would back up, then flee. Then popped out a 3rd time. Got a weird feeling of cat and mouse. Animals don't act like this. It was playing with me. I felt I was being lured into something with the creature still in sight. I turned and went home. Was this perhaps a juvenile albino Bigfoot? In 2014, there was a rather bizarre report from the state of Kansas, which was reported in the Christian County Headliner News. In March of that year, a woman was driving along with her daughter on Highway 61 in McPherson County when they saw something they could not explain. The report reads, "There was a farmer tilling a field on the right side of the highway, possibly trying to create a barrier to stop a brush and timber fire that it was burning out of control by a period of dry weather. The area was under an open burning ban at the time, and suddenly a large bipedal creature covered with white hair ran out into the road from the direction of the fire, possibly to get out of its path. The daughter screamed, and the driver caught a glimpse of the Bigfoot as she passed it. So close, its body filled the window. She estimated it was about 8 feet tall, and the hair was spiked, as if treated with gel." She's a cosmetologist. Of course it was treated with gel. It had a nice fade. It was really beautiful. One impressive feature was the large black eyes, which stood out, in her mind, due to the size and contrast with the white hair on its face. It was actually on all fours when first seen, then stood up and ran several steps in an erect position, and finally returned to its previous quadrupedal locomotion as it crossed the ditch and disappeared into the darkness. The detail of the spiked hair was particularly odd about this case, and one wonders what significance that has, if any. That's for sure. Well, she's a cosmetologist. This is her life. I didn't care for the style, but it looked like it was really going for it. We also have an unusual report from the state of Vermont, where in 2014, there was a sighting made in the vicinity of the town of Shaftesbury. Cryptozoology News reported that the 20-year-old witness had been out walking his dog when the creature in question came lumbering out of the woods to cross the road right in front of him. The man explains, "There was an awful smell in the air. My dog kept barking, and that's when I thought something wasn't right. The odor got more intense. I couldn't believe it. I see what looks like a guy in a white costume or something running across the road towards the woods, but he, or it, was in no hurry." Finally, in the same year, was another report from the area of Litchfield, Maine, where a construction worker claims to have seen a white Bigfoot on Christmas Eve as he was taking his dog for a walk. The day is described as being foggy, and suddenly his dog began to get agitated for no reason, which is right about when the beast would make its appearance. The witness would say of the encounter thusly, "It moved fast, and like a human. It was fat, huge, and had long hair everywhere. Looked like a white Bigfoot or something, no kidding. I never thought I'd get to see something like this. I've always laughed at all these Bigfoot nuts. I had my reasons, but now I guess I'm the crazy one here. Unless it was a very good hoax played on me, that could be, but I tell you again, it ain't easy for a man to make those kind of moves. That didn't look human to me." With such reports, we get a rare glimpse into another variety or spin on the typical Bigfoot phenomena, and it seems to almost give more weight to these as living, breathing creatures in that they display this variety. But what are they exactly? Are they albino individuals, a subspecies, or what? Are they even real in any sense at all? One researcher by the name of Sam Updegrove has said of his thoughts on the matter, "They do not appear to be albino individuals since, to my knowledge, the red eye coloration that is so typical of such creatures has never been reported. It's also been suggested that they are older specimens who have gone through the same changes in hair color that humans do. But if so, they get around nimbly enough to make us older folks green with envy. I guess we would then be reported as leprechauns. It seems to me that the most likely explanation is that Bigfoot, like humans, are simply prone to variation in hair color, and the possibilities include a limited number of white-haired individuals. Albinos, anonymously colored or whatever, otherwise, reports of white Bigfoot have certain allure to them. These are the rare of the rare possible strange instances of unique individuals among a race of creatures that are already elusive enough, and the white Bigfoot have an almost mythical quality to them. It poses an interesting question as to just what variety of physical differences we could expect to see with such creatures, and although Bigfoot are far from confirmed to exist, it adds a layer of the mystery to the mystery of what these mystery beasts are all about. Now, that is curious, and I think the most curious part of that is the sighting of the person seeing it carrying a glowing orb of some kind. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to translate that or what to make of it. Maybe there is an extraterrestrial quality to these things. I know there's people that swear there are. They swear that Bigfoot is an extraterrestrial being. And people have many times made the claims of seeing them dropped off by what would otherwise be known as UFOs. Maybe they are. Maybe they're the Predators game or something. Who knows? But I don't know what they are. I don't know. I guess for me, here's the thing, is that it's already a huge claim to say there are these 8, 9, 10 foot ape people in the wilds of America and in the world. That's a huge claim because it flies in the face of all conventional wisdom that, such big things are already cataloged and reported, and there aren't any more because we've seen everything there is. But it's enough to say that they could be out there. And when you start stacking phenomena on top of each other, like not only is it out there, but it's actually from another world. And not only that, but they drive UFOs, and not only that, but the UFOs pick them up and stuff. I think I've heard from a listener who wrote in about an experience she had, and I thought this was very profound, and this really made me think a lot about this situation. And what she said was that she thought it was just a dream, but it was the most profound, weird dream and she's had. And she explained that she found herself in what looked like a weird room with these alien creatures around her. And she went on to explain all the details of this experience of what sounded to me like an abduction. And she said it was just so lucid and so real. And she says at some point, she was able to look around the room a little bit and saw on another table near hers was this Bigfoot creature, which was also being examined. And she talked about locking eyes with the creature and getting a sense of wisdom and knowledge and this intensity from these eyes. And it occurred to me that what she had experienced may not just be a dream. Maybe it was an abduction. Maybe that's possible. And maybe what also she experienced was the idea that maybe Bigfoot get abducted too. And I guess it stands to reason. If they're here abducting people, checking out wildlife, doing cattle mutilations, why wouldn't they also check out the Bigfoot? Why wouldn't they check out these other types of what might be very intelligent life here? That maybe it lives more primally, but it is still a part of this world. If they want to learn about the world, they would have to check out all the things. So maybe she witnessed a UFO abduction herself and observed a Bigfoot that was also abducted. Now that alone could explain why people have seen UFOs dropping off Bigfoot. And, a lot of people make the correlation, well, there's strange lights in the woods, and then suddenly I saw this UFO or this Bigfoot, so it must mean it came from the UFO. Well, that's possible, but everything we know about the Bigfoot is that they are an extremely curious creature, where they allegedly come and they look in our windows and they watch what we're doing, and they sneak around wherever people are gathered and they just observe. Bear of Bigfoot Outlaws says that we are the entertainment. We are their entertainment. That makes sense too, because how much entertainment could you have growing up in the woods constantly and looking at sticks and stuff? It's like you've seen all the sticks, you've seen all the rocks, you've seen all the an area has to offer. So what's going to stimulate you mentally? And maybe watching these strange bald creatures in their strange vehicles and their strange contraptions. Maybe that's exciting for something that may be just as intelligent as us, but lives a lot more primally. And so maybe that's what happens when these strange lights are in the woods. Maybe the Bigfoot are like, what the hell's those strange lights? Let's check it out. So maybe they get a little more careless and they start wandering around looking at these strange lights. And then they bump into people that are also looking at these strange lights. So is it that same sense of curiosity that causes us to look around, makes them look around? So I don't know that one necessarily means the other. You know, that UFOs and Bigfoot means that there's an interrelationship. Not necessarily. I think that it's very possible they're just checking out the weird stuff going on in the woods just like we are. And 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. Maybe it's just one and then another one that are not interrelated. So that's kind of my feeling on that. I don't know. Take it or leave it. Do what you will. But I find it incredibly interesting. And I guess I can't stack that phenomenon personally. I don't have enough personal knowledge to go on to say, yes, there's definitely a correlation between UFOs and Bigfoot. There could be. There could be. I don't know. But I don't know enough about it to make that claim. But, you know, it's just what I've observed, what I've thought, my reflections on it. It's enough to say that they're out there. And that's pretty good. When we establish for sure that they're out there and get at least a passing consensus on that, then we can cross the bridge about where did they come from? What are they? Are they UFO extraterrestrial beings? Are they a part of the natural fauna of the world that is somehow remained elusive? Are they something else, interdimensional? Are they, you know, some other abilities that we don't have, like transdimensional? I don't know. Maybe. But first of all, I think it's important to let's just have it as Bigfoot for now, and then maybe after we've established that, then we can decide what else they are or what they aren't. Because once you start stacking on phenomena, it's kind of like the disclosure hearings when that they had in Washington, where all these witnesses came forth and these people talked about their experiences in front of members of Congress. And it was this great showing of people coming forward and saying, this is what I've seen. And it raised a lot of questions. And then came Paul Hellyer, who decided to just snowball it all and say, well, not only are they here, but there could be up to 40 different species here, and they live among us. And he just piled on this whole extra layer of stuff that probably wasn't the best setting for me, personally. I didn't think that was the forum that he should have dumped this extraneous information on. Because then, any guys that were just like, wow, I just realized UFOs could be here. And then to have that piled on, it's like, oh, okay, well, never mind. This just went all whoopy on me. So I think that wasn't probably the forum for that. That's a personal thing. I'm not saying that anyone else feels that way or should feel that way, but to me, Paul Hellyer's addition to that, I didn't think was helpful. But that's just me. I'm probably going to take a lot of flack for it, but it's one thing to bring people to understanding something is possible. It's another thing to just start piling onto that plate and showing them how much they missed. That's just too much. Okay, so I promised you guys we were going to talk about a weird technology that's emerged. I probably didn't paraphrase it really well up ahead of time, but this is something that really jumped out to me. And I think it could be, I don't know much about this technology, but it's, let me just read the article. I guess there's no other way about it. Let's read the article. We'll watch the video and you guys can see what you think. And this is coming from animalien.com. That's a great site. Check it out. Got a lot of great articles. But it says, Tesla autopilot recorded an invisible man in an empty cemetery. Internet user discusses an unusual phenomenon at the cemetery. Tesla's autopilot recorded a person near the car, although there was not a soul around. Get ready for this. The driver filmed what was happening and posted on Twitter. The footage shows that the car is on the road in the middle of an empty cemetery. At this point, the system indicates that a silhouette is standing next to the car. Then the man moved away from the car and disappeared. Let me copy this link to those listeners on TFR because you won't be able to see it. Disinfo Hellyer. You got that right, Bam. There you go, Bam. There's the link of what I'm reading right now because it has a video on the bottom of it. At this point, the system indicates the silhouette was standing near the car. Then the man moved away from the car and disappeared. Tesla collision avoidance system detecting an invisible human entity at the cemetery. Excuse me, but WTF at Elon Musk. Users began to assume that the technology has reached the other world. The driver thinks to return to the cemetery and look for the ghost, but does not risk it yet. He admitted he was a little scared. Glitch or modern technology see more than we do. Here's the video, folks, and I think this is wild. And I'll get into a little bit of why that is in just a second, but here's the video. It's showing like there's a person next to the car here for a second. There it is again. It's kind of glitching all over the place, right? Now it's ahead up on the road ahead. But I just think that's amazing. Now, of all places to catch a presence that isn't there, a cemetery? Really? So this is the self-driving Tesla apparatus, but it suddenly stops because it thinks there's a person there. I just think that that's fascinating. Now, here's the thing. A lot of ghost hunting equipment that is used regularly is multi-purpose stuff for many other reasons. Thermal imaging was not invented to ghost hunt. It's invented to catch temperature fluctuations, but is widely used now as a ghost hunting technique, as well as Bigfoot and cryptids and such. But for looking for people, obviously, for a lot of reasons. Forward-looking infrared is invaluable, but EMF meters that are used to detect fluctuations in the EMF field, electromagnetic fields, we're not designed for ghost hunting, but the theory is that wherever ghostly presences are, there is a fluctuation in the electromagnetic field in that area. And certainly seems that there's probably something to that, but here's a situation, whatever this vehicle is using to sense objects or things around it, could it actually be being triggered by a ghostly presence checking on this car? And maybe it is. Maybe something is really there. Structured light cameras, the dots you always see in the ghost shows, the stick man cameras where they shape it around a room and it'll find an image or a person. Hey, Minion, you want to come in? Go ahead. And those were developed by video game companies and to track people moving and participating in games, and now they're used for ghost hunting. So is this the dawn of what could be another technology that could be utilized to detect the presence of what might be a spirit or something? Maybe so. So I don't know. I don't know what they use to detect this. Maybe it's just simply motion detectors like used in home security systems. Maybe it's something more, but I found this really interesting that the car stops because it's detecting a presence close to the car, but the camera's there. There's nobody standing there anywhere. So is that tracking a ghost? You be the judge, but I find it very interesting and even exciting because maybe this will be a new tool that can be developed to help track the possibility of other existences of spirits. I don't know. Anyway, that was a little Easter egg I'm throwing you guys at the end of the show. I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope you're always enjoying the Paranormal Portal. I'm enjoying bringing them to you. How you doing, Minion? What you got to say? You don't have to eat the microphone. What should they do?
Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell and follow Paranormal Portal's Instagram.
We don't have an Instagram. Facebook. No, we do have an Instagram. We do. You're absolutely right. We do. I just, Cha-Cha's doing a much better job at that than I am. Oh, well.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, you're trying to get me off the air right now? I still got a minute to go. But everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the shows. As always, it's my sincere pleasure to do these shows with you guys. I just want to make sure you, if you're listening on TFR, iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live, stick around. Paisley Wild's coming up next. The Spaces Between. And following that is World Bigfoot Radio with the Duke. So lots to come yet tonight. Thanks, Bam. Good to see you, brother. How do you record invisible? I don't know. That's a good question, Bam. But the invisible becomes visible with certain technologies, maybe. I don't know. All right, guys, that's it for us. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Okay, hurry. You're running out of time.
And laugh as much as you can.
The kid knows she's lying. She's taking over. All right. Good night, everybody. Love you bunches. And I'll see you tomorrow night with Don right here on the portal. Good night.
Woo!